All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching us on YouTube or one of the many video outlets that we have, and you can see my face, or if you're listening to us via one of the many audio outlets that we have, and you can hear my voice, you know that it is time once again for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports. A show so excruciating we can't even get our families to listen to it. I think, you know, instead my background was in psyops for a while. I have it on good authority that they're now using our podcast to torture prisoners.
Ah, that's that's one way to do it.
Mhm. So when we get that spike in listenership, that's where it's coming from.
Got you.
Mhm.
Got you. Yeah, that's one way to figure it out. I know that.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time once again for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I am Mike, and I am joined as always by my faithful partner in all things podcasting. Stead, how goes it this week?
It's going all right. Going all right. Getting used to being back after my spring break is over. But
Mm-hmm.
my I'm just kind of counting down the days. It's a little weird. I'm gonna be transitioning out of my current career. So we'll see kind of what happens next. But yeah, everything's all good as long as I don't pay attention to what's going on in my footballing world. Everything's actually going pretty
Hey, it could be worse.
good.
Your footballing world could be my footballing world.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, but I know we'll talk about this more at length more when we have Matt on a little bit later in the show, and we do have a packed show tonight. But I have learned that the opposite of love and it's not necessarily hate; it's apathy,
Mhm.
right? And I've said that a couple of times on the show. And right now, I love my team, but I am so doggone apathetic about them.
Yeah.
It is hard to feel, to get emotionally invested. And I'm not saying that I won't support them and I don't care, but it's like it's really hard to care when you feel as though the players and the management of the club don't care nearly as much as you do.
Mhm.
So you're left wondering, like, why should I invest this? I was planning on going out to watch the game. I was going to drive up early in the morning to catch it at Baltimore, but I didn't sleep well on Friday night. We had a good evening. We went to go see. We went out to dinner with my parents, and then we went to go see Wynton Marsalis and the live at
Oh,
Lincoln Center
nice.
Jazz Band
Yeah.
at Swarthmore. Amazing performance. They did um, Mingus. They did Charlie Mingus's stuff, and it was a really great performance. So I got home, and I was still a little wired, and I didn't end up going to sleep. So I decided to stay home. And after I turned it on, and I, woke up early, and there's a Indian Premier League doubleheader, which is something I like to watch in the mornings
Mhm.
because it's fun. And, it takes a little bit of time. So I had that on the one screen, and then on the big screen, and then when the game started, I put that on my little screen. And as soon as Everton scored, I turned the game off. I said, you know what? Why? They're
Mhm.
not going to score. They're not going to win. They're not going to come back.
Mhm.
There's no point. So I put that one on a small screen, went back to watching the Indian Premier League. And by the way, that was 10 times more interesting than anything that would have happened. I mean, you're talking about like two, the equivalent, cricket equivalent of home runs to end the game for a one-run win. It was pretty epic, the comeback. And I was happy. And then I watched Man City and Liverpool, and it was so in I could have gone either way with that one,
Mhm.
but it was so interesting to just watch that game and see the styles and how invested the teams and the managers were, and to watch I almost forgot what watching a capable team play soccer looks like.
Mhm.
I'd forgotten over the course of the past couple of years what it looks like to watch a team that's capable
Right.
do it, and they call it the beautiful game for a reason.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Yep.
but you know, it could be worse. It could be worse, and I'm sure that it's worse for other people. You could be an Everton fan.
Yeah, you could be an Everton fan. Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, you could be an Everton fan.
that win was crucial for them, but it has not been a good season.
No,
So,
it hasn't been, and they've really been. I mean, I don't think you ever hear the day when you have a team like Norwich and Burnley have that be the game that every Everton fan is watching because they need those teams to lose, and they need, when you need Burnley to lose, it's a pretty rough go of it right now. So things are not good at Goodison Park. I know that.
well, we figured that the one thing I will say about Manchester United, given that they play Norwich and Liverpool still this season, they're going to have a say in the title race and the relegation race. And given the way they're playing, they're going to help out every team that they play.
Yeah,
because you can't say for sure that's going and playing United right now looks like a good bet for 3 points. So, but
yeah, if you're mid-table, you want to play Arsenal because Arsenal doesn't seem to realize that those are mid-table teams that they should be more competitive against. And so yeah, it's kind of funny, the rivalry for Manchester United and Arsenal from the early part of the 20th century when you and I were getting really into this game seems to have rekindled, except we're battling out for 5th place. So it's a little weird. It's a little weird to be, Man U and Arsenal in these positions and actually looking up at Man City and Spurs. It just seems wrong to me on so many levels. It just at least in my fandom, I haven't experienced that for this long. It's been a number of seasons. It's been going on for a while. Now, granted, United's had some highs to go along with their lows, but yeah, this has been difficult.
Yeah, I think though that we witnessed, if we hadn't with all complete clarity, that the new centerpiece showcase rivalry, at least for the next couple of years, I would say for the remaining part of this decade, is going to be City and Liverpool.
Yeah, especially as long as those two managers remain in place. That's going to be the rivalry. Yeah.
And you can complain about it being too nice, the amount of respect that they have. I don't think that this needs to go to the level of, Jose Mourinho and Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, I agree. Or even, but, Fergie and Wenger had their, differences, but it never got to the Mourinho type of thing. But I think I would say that it's also unnecessary simply because the play on the field when they play each other, they're good games. They're good games. If they were dull games where they were just simply trying not to lose, then the managerial love affair might get a little annoying. But the fact that they're playing and they're tactically matching up, they're going at it. Let's really kind of go, yeah, it's okay. If I get the game that's even close to that Old Firm game I saw last weekend, I'm happy.
This is a rivalry unlike a lot of ones that we are used to in sports, that's not born out of social or economic reasons.
This is there's a cultural background to this rivalry. Yeah. You're exactly right.
This is born almost entirely based on the managers and teams on the field. So there's no reason for the fans or anybody else to display any sort of ill will or enmity,
right?
Because this isn't this. I hate to say it, it's not about you. It's not about you. Exactly. Like, enjoy the product that you're watching on the field, because it could be a lot worse. You could be a fan of another team. Enjoy it for what it's worth. You get to see high quality football.
But I think it's also a lot of new fans to at least on this side of the world, a lot of new fans to the Premier League have become City fans primarily because they're fans without a lot of history, and that's a team without a lot of history. So it's easy to support that squad as a newer fan of the Premier League simply because they're newly good. And it's I understand why we have people who have bought into that squad, but who've also had respect for the game to actually study it and to learn about it and actually become a fan of the team and not simply just be a fan because that's the current team that's good. They just happen to be good when you got involved, and they're a team that doesn't have a lot of history. So it's okay to kind of like go through that journey together.
And that's the same, we can discuss it with that, but we've gone through that with any number of clubs. You know, Manchester United has a very rich history, but let's really clearly be honest about the fact that, you know, in the 80s and 90s, or in the 80s, 70s, they've had some great players, but they were relegated. And, you know, there was some time in there where they were not a particularly great club. Right. You know, they had their doldrums in the better part of a decade. A lot of the reason why they became so worldwide popular was because as international soccer exploded, they were one of the biggest teams and the biggest names with the biggest players. So we had the ability to watch them. The same with Arsenal, right? The same with Chelsea, right? I would find
Chelsea had maybe a league title, maybe a league
yeah, they were not
in the 40s. Like that was about it. Chelsea wasn't much involved before pre-Abramovich.
And if they hadn't made the Champions League that year, Abramovich probably wouldn't have bought them. He was trying to buy Manchester United. That didn't work. And so we bought them, and the rest is history. But, you know, we can, from a fan's perspective, we can clown the fans of a city and say, oh yeah, but at the same time, you have to look at what they're putting out on the field and saying, if I was watching that game, if I was just a brand new neophyte fan, and one of my first exposures was to watch that game, right? You know, I would find it hard to not be a City fan, because watching them play it's again, it speaks to you, right? I would find it hard to say, oh, I'm not going to be a City fan, or I'm not going to be a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, especially when you're hanging out with a bunch of fans of Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester United. You're probably going to look for a team that's not in there, kind of like, you know, you're supposed to be renewed to the soccer circle jerk. You're not going to be involved in that way. So City is a good squad to lump yourself onto, and because it's like you said, the field's fantastic. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I can't stand City, but I watch them when they're on TV, man. I watch the game. It's a good game.
So again, that's not the Manchester United fan in me speaking. That's the objective host of a soccer podcast that covers soccer broadly.
Exactly.
From an objective standpoint, saying I would find it hard. You know, of course, on a personal fandom respect, if you told me tomorrow, you know what, I'm going to become a Man City fan, I'd have a lot to say to you.
That's right. Yeah, if you've been watching this game as long as we have, and you're not from Manchester, you're not a City fan. So don't even start. You couldn't have been a fan before 2010 and be a City fan unless you're from Manchester.
Yeah, because you can't be a fan. You can't really be a fan until you go through a period like this where your team just stinks.
Yeah,
and you still. And as much as I say, like, you know, maybe I'm waiting for this, I'm just treading water until the season ends. You know, I'm still going to be the first one up next year, full of piss and vinegar, ready to go, claiming that, you know, the new manager is going to solve all the problems.
Right.
Although, you know, it has taken me all the strength that I have not to start some ridiculous rumor recently about how, like, oh, the Glazers sign Hollywood deal and take all the money, ergo decide not to sign Ten Hag, but give job to Steve Sampson, figuring that it'll result in a reality show one way or the other.
Yeah.
Just start totally making stuff up.
Yeah.
So,
well, all right.
First off the bat, we've got our good friend Carlos. Los, how's it going this evening?
It's going. We're here. Yeah, I heard you say Steve Sampson, and I wish my mic was on because you could have heard me laugh big time. that was pretty funny.
I was totally dreaming that one up on Saturday. Like, United to sign deal for $100 million, $200 million developmental deal with Fox Films, or with Apple, to develop product based on
with Apple TV.
Yeah, based on Ted Lasso.
Right.
In reality, they're going to sign Steve Sampson to come over and manage the team, and they're going to film a reality show. But of course, Man United's not going to get any of the money. It's all going to go to the Glazers.
Of course.
Yeah. So, but you know, just something to entertain myself. Well, Los, Spurs kind of managed to do something that a couple of teams this week, our teams this weekend, didn't manage to
You mean win?
win.
And win convincingly at that.
Well, and there was talk of we had the tiebreaker on goal differential with Arsenal, and I'm like, well, not anymore. Now it's a point differential. So, but we'll see for how long. And it's early. But even with the game in hand, if Arsenal was to win their game in hand, they're level with us on points. But
you have to win by 10.
You'd have to win by a dozen or something like that in order to try and get close to that goal differential. So anyway, it was a good weekend. It's been a good last few weeks. We've just been hitting on all cylinders, and now can we keep it up? The problem, of course, the glaring problem is the fact that we got injuries, and one in particular that happened over the weekend that didn't need to happen. Is the referee Graham Scott, I believe, was allowing play to continue and not really calling much in the way of fouls. And that led to the part where Matty Cash comes in and does a double leg tackle on Matt Doherty. And, he got the ball. Okay, this is not the 1970s. Getting the ball isn't enough anymore. You have to play. You can't play recklessly. And that's for player safety. And, you don't want players getting injured. And guess what? Matt Doherty got injured. And the referee just did not do the job as far as protecting the players like he should. Now, you got yellow and red cards, you use them. And that was a case where he should have used yellow, if not red. And I don't know, did you guys get a chance to see it?
I saw the tackle,
I got it queued up.
So the master of the screen share is going to share it anyway. So
go ahead
and share it for us.
All right, stand by. Let me find it here. I just had it. Hang on. Here we go. And screen share coming your way. Wait, I don't know what that is. Well, the master of screen share was coming your way, but all right, there we go. And boom.
There we go.
Okay, so you can watch the video here, and I'll go ahead and maximize it. A play similar to that, where the Korean player, I can't remember his name, but he did something like that near the corner flag in like the 29th minute and got a red card. He just came in full bore, 2 legs, and took out the guy. Now, back in the 70s and 80s, that goes, it's no big deal. You got the ball, you're playing the ball. The guy just happened to be incidentally there, and so he got hurt, and so what? And in fact, if you were to listen to the audio of that video that I just showed you, the announcers talking about how there was nothing sinister or nothing no ill intent on the part of Matty Cash to take out Matt Doherty. And I gotta disagree with that. Look how close you were to the sideline. I mean, you're right there on the touch line. There's no need for a play like that at the touch line. He was looking to do damage. And now there's as you know, Twitter, when people get upset, they start spewing all kinds of threats and stuff. So I don't mean any ill will to Matty Cash, but I'm not everyone on Twitter. There's a lot of people on Twitter that do not wish him well.
That tackle was clearly with the intent of either sending a message or to actually put you had a game where Villa was getting really run off the field. And then you have a situation where Villa's lost their last 3 games before that started. Villa's not playing well at all. And when you see teams in that type of situation, for some reason, those types of aggressive plays seem to happen more often to the teams that are in that situation. So all I'm going to say is, yes, there was intent in that tackle, because as you said, what was the success of that tackle? You knocked the ball out of bounds and Spurs kept possession. So your goal of that tackle clearly was not for possession, because there was no way you were going to gain possession from that sort of tackle. It was to send some sort of message where you were trying to injure the player, but you were trying to hurt the player. And we all know that there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. He was trying to hurt him, and it was a cheap move. And it's, sadly, there's going to be repercussions. Like something's going to happen to that player. He's going to be tackled in a similar fashion. It's almost like baseball when you throw at a guy that threw at your guy. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I hope it doesn't get too ugly. Hopefully he gets a knock and they're like, okay, 1 for 1, and we're going to call it a day and leave it at that. But that was a dirty play. And there's no hiding the fact that was a dirty play. Even if you played back in the 70s, that's a dirty play.
Yeah, dirty play. MCL, Doherty out for the season. It's a 12-week process, apparently. So he should be back for next fall. But that means we don't have him for now.
Now, okay, so the league can go back and take retroactive action depending on what's in the referee's notes.
Oh, they won't. They won't.
The referee's notes are shit anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, we have seen them. It's rare, but it's happened, right? Especially given the nature of this. But you got to ask yourself that, Los, I believe that wasn't even given a yellow card.
Not even a foul.
Not even a foul.
Not a foul. All right.
Not even a foul.
I mean, even if I'm going in and I'm saying that his intent wasn't malicious, that it's not a red card tackle. He's not in control of his body, as evidenced by the fact that his left leg goes up, or he scissors him around the knees, right? That's best case, you have no control of your body, it's reckless, it's yellow card. Worst case, you went in for a 2-footed tackle, brought him down, that's a red card, right? To not say that's a foul, I'm wondering, like, did the referee not see it? Was the linesman not paying attention? Is there something in the notes? Because for that not to be judged anything, you almost feel like the referee would have to say, like, I didn't see it, which then gives the Premier League the opportunity to retroactively go back and say, okay, upon viewing this should have been a red card offense. You're suspended for 3 games. Because otherwise he would have had to write in his notes, I didn't think that was anything. And I question, like, how you could do that.
From where it was in the field, and this is as a former referee, the referee runs what's called a left wing diagonal. And so that is on the left wing as Spurs were attacking. And no, wait a second. No. Yes, that was. But at any rate, it was on the opposite end of the field from the assistant referee. The assistant referee is running the right wing on the other side of the field down at the end. So he's probably about 30, 40 yards away from that. The center official should be closer to it than that, but he may not have been as close even because it happened at the touchline. He isn't. Referees don't typically go to the touchline very often unless they feel the need to. So that was that's for positioning purposes. That's where the officials probably were when that play happened. So what he may have seen, it's hard to tell. I'm not sure what his vantage point was. He obviously didn't think it was a foul, let alone a yellow card or red card. So that's where you're at there. And I just think that when you go in reckless like that, especially along the touch line, there's no need for it. It's being reckless on the touch lines. People are going to get hurt, and that's exactly what happened to Matt Doherty.
Now, that was not a VAR reviewable call because nothing was called. Was VAR able to check, to whistle down and say, hey, look, there's something we need to take a look at?
I think VAR can, but I don't think they thought they saw anything that was reprehensible enough for them to go ahead and say, hey, you need to take a look at this.
Because they didn't think of the intent to injure, so ergo wasn't. They can only do it if they think it's a red card, I believe, not just for a yellow.
Right? No, not for a yellow. The VAR doesn't stop for yellows, but it does stop for potential red cards. And apparently, the VAR official did not think that was a red card offense, which that's, debatable, red or yellow. But some sort of sanction should have happened.
I mean, and you feel again, for Matt Doherty, who's going to be out with this injury for 12 weeks, right when he was starting to, getting it into the frame and becoming a solid wingback for Spurs.
He was coming into his own. He was playing well the last few matches. And then this, I mean, they were talking highly about him before the match started. Even all the Twitter people out there were talking highly about Matt Doherty when they had been given nothing but grief for games previous. And then this happens, and now people are a little miffed that he got taken out and now he's injured and we don't have him the rest of the season.
So we want to switch gears a little bit and call on your refereeing skills. We were talking a little bit about this. One of the big ones from this weekend that I want to call on your ex-refereeing skills happened out on the left coast in the MLS Battle of El Tráfico between LA Galaxy and LAFC. Galaxy had a 97th minute equalizer ruled out for offsides in what was one of the more controversial calls of the weekend. Thank you very much for bringing this up. So as we see it, Carlos Vela is going to go in. He's going to cross the ball. The Ghanaian defender for LAFC's ruled offsides. It deflects off of a LA Galaxy defender to the striker for LAFC, who puts it in the back of the net. Now, the ruling on the field was offside. They said that the LAFC defender was offside, which he was when Vela kicked the ball. The argument had been whether or not you feel the ball that hits a Galaxy defender, whether that was a deliberate hit or not. Had he deliberately made contact with the ball, the Galaxy defender, that would have started another phase of play, meaning that he would not have been offside and the goal would have stood.
Okay. I'm telling you, there was offsides twice in this play.
Okay.
Not just once. Here's the one that I looked at, because I know everyone's talking about what happened here, but go a little bit further down. And this shot right there, if you look, this player makes the shot. These two are both offside.
Yes.
Okay. Number 7 is the one who ends up putting it back in the net. Now, there is there's one of the diagrams. That's what I forgot to pull up. I was going to pull up a diagram from FIFA where they describe when a player takes a shot and it deflects off of an opponent and goes to a player who was in an offside position at the time the original shot was taken, you're supposed to adjudicate offsides. Same thing happens if that player was to shoot and hit the post and it goes to the players in offside position. They're also, again, supposed to adjudicate offside. So for me, this right here is where the offsides happens. So if you watch as this progresses, he's taken the shot and has been saved, and there comes number 7 to put the ball in. But he was there in an offside position at the time the original shot was taken. And so to me, he's offside there. So anything that happened before that, to me, is irrelevant. He's offside here. So that's good enough for me. Now, everyone's going back to what happened here in the beginning, and they're spinning their wheels and stuff on this part of the play right here, where it comes off the defender, and whether or not it's deliberate or what. To me, that almost is like it doesn't matter because of what happened subsequently. You had offsides in a couple. You had from here, the original pass there. Your guy on the far side is off. Eventually, he becomes the beneficiary. So, I mean, how far are they going to carry this thing? And that becomes the question: is whether or not this guy here in white, did he make the active play? And I'm going to say it looks like he is trying to actively play that thing, to be honest. And any defender that's got a ball loose in the penalty area is going to make a move for that ball if it's anywhere within playing distance. So they're not just going to stand there and watch it unless they happen to be Harry Maguire. But other than that, just about everybody else is going to go ahead and clear that thing out. But for me, again, the offside happened here at that particular point where he takes the shot and the save happens, and Seven is a beneficiary then, and he was in an offside position at the time of the shot was taken. So there's your offside. So the LAFC fans that are moaning and groaning about it, sorry, he was offside. There's no doubt. That's for me, that's where the offside is. The first part of it, pretty much, and I didn't really even pay too much close attention to it, because that's where all the meat and potatoes was happening right there.
So again, I'm with you. I thought it looked offsides all the way, but getting a former referee's opinion always helps matters. What I loved the most about this was afterwards, they did something that I've been screaming for a while, which is release tape of the match officials discussing what they saw. And afterwards, it became very clear. All right, here's what we saw. They said that they didn't believe that the deflection off the Galaxy defender was intentional. As you said, most defenders are going to try and do that. They didn't say he made a move.
They're going to get in the way. That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. They get in the way.
He didn't make a move towards the ball, a deliberate move that they said would have interacted and indicated another phase of play. I can understand that. Ergo, the defender is offsides, and Latif Blessing, number 7, the goal scorer, number 7, the goal doesn't stand, right?
Right.
You had then, so I liked it. It was great. You had, of course, Steve Cherundolo, who was the manager of LAFC, coming on the next day and saying that he believed that it was intentional, that they got it wrong. The fact, we can argue over whether or not.
But move on from that point. Move on from that point and come to this point right here, and he's offside still.
Mm-hmm. So, I believe, I'm with you. I believe 100% that they got this one right. And I thought that the league actually demonstrably handled a call like this better than a lot of other places. I would love to see the Premier League do what MLS did for some of their more controversial calls and let us hear it. But I think that they're afraid that if we actually hear what the match officials are saying, they'll just cause more problems than they'll actually solve.
Maybe, but they did that on they put mics on the officials for a game, and they went. Was it MLS? I think it was MLS. It wasn't EPL, but I saw it on like EPL morning show. I guess they were showing how referees were talking to each other, and there was a play where the forward was breaking, defender was trying to catch up, and the referees are talking to each other, and they're yelling as the guy's running with the ball. They're going dogso, 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 and what that means is it's the denying of the obvious goal scoring opportunity. And so they were looking for it. They were looking to see if the guy was going to take it. And they were like, okay, Dogso, we've got it. It's here. This is now. He's got the opportunity to score. And so if he gets taken out, it's red. So they were constantly communicating that in their mics as the play was happening. That I thought was great. And I wish I had mics back when I was officiating. It would have been a lot better to be able to communicate with the guys instead of having to run 50 yards to go talk to my assistants. So
I think, clearly the mics and the walkie-talkies that allow them to communicate in between themselves is great. Having watched a lot of foreign sports where you can see the replay officials talk to each other and discuss what they're seeing, I think gives it a level of transparency. And I've said many times, I think that, more than anything else, we want to know what it is that you're seeing. Fans have access to more information, both a better understanding and better camera angles and things like that, we're able to see stuff on a level that we've never been able to see before. And as a result, we sometimes want to know why what we're seeing doesn't jive with what you as the referee are doing.
Which is why people love the NFL, because they do explain it.
Mhm.
Even if it is Red Cashin saying, personal foul, he's down there at the bottom of the pile, giving him the business.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what foul is that? I don't know, but hey, he's giving him the business. Okay, Brad, we got you.
Yeah. You see it in rugby, you see it in a lot of other sports, you see it with the Hawkeye in tennis, a level of clarity that enables us. The only thing that's more infuriating sometimes than VAR decisions is balls and strikes in a Major League Baseball game. But
that seems arbitrary sometimes.
We just don't have enough time to sit and discuss all that. Well,
no.
Los, we want to thank you for coming on and joining us, telling us a little bit about Spurs and giving us
an update. You Spurs.
From the box of the referee, giving us a little bit of your opinion as next.
Rock and roll, gents. It's always been a pleasure. You guys take care. Have a good rest of the week.
Take care, and we'll have you back soon.
Oh, Cam's here. I got to go.
Yes.
See you later.
We're going to welcome in our good friend Cam, who has Celtic Cam, who has a lot to discuss this week as we get set. We have the split. It's finally arrived, or as they call it, the second phase. Relegation and promotion in the Scottish Championship, an Old Firm derby in the Scottish Cup semifinals. Man, where do you want to start, Cam?
I guess, I think everybody's always interested in the split, so we could probably get started there. The weirdest thing in football.
The weirdest thing in football. And it went all downhill for a couple of teams. Hibs, inability to pick up the win on Saturday saw them resigned to sixth position on goal differential. On sixth position, missing out on the split by 2 points, right? So it happened. 40 points was the cutoff. Hibs comes in with 38, and they finish sixth, meaning that Motherwell makes the great escape and finds themselves in the top half for the second phase. We had talked about the fact that in between Rangers, Celtic, and Hearts, the top three positions in that were pretty well decided. But we're talking a matter of, 5 points separating fourth from eighth, I believe. How tight was it this time around, Cam?
Yeah, as you say, when you look at the points, kind of fourth and down, it's all very, very close. I think we're definitely going to see some teams that are in the bottom half of the split that are going to be really upset. I think Hibs and Livingston could actually end up possibly with more points than Motherwell and potentially even Ross County. And I think that's going to be a little upsetting for them. In terms of the teams that are in the bottom half, the big surprises for me, you kind of mentioned Hibs, Livingston, Aberdeen being so low in that bottom half was really a surprise. I will say, I think Aberdeen's gone through a number of management changes this year. There's been backroom issues. So, it does make sense that they're in that bottom half. I just didn't think they'd be that low. Props to Dundee United and Ross County for making it into that top half. Dundee United having really worked out this season and really had a good season for themselves. And then Ross County just slipping in there. We talked about it last time that, if there's a team that could potentially make it up, it was going to be Livingston or Ross County. And, I'm happy to see them up there. It's been a while since they've been in the top half of the split. So, I think it'll be interesting to see how these games play out. Celtic, I will say, has a massive advantage in terms of the games they're playing at home. They're playing Hearts at home, they're playing Rangers at home, and they're playing Motherwell at home. The away games they're playing are Ross County and Dundee United. On the flip side of that, Rangers have all their difficult games away, including the Old Firm against Celtic. So, at this point, Rangers do have the slight disadvantage in terms of the split, and Celtic have the advantage here.
Now, speaking of Rangers and Celtics, what is it? You got about 2 old firm derbies coming up in 2 weeks.
Right?
Yeah. One this weekend in the Scottish Cup semifinals, and one on May 1st for the league. Right. By the end of the month, it's very much conceivable that Rangers could be basically out of everything that matters. Right. Celtic now have a 2 full game advantage in the league with 5 left to play, and 2 home derbies coming up. As you said, they're running, although they play the same teams, they have Celtic have Rangers and Hearts, have that massive advantage, and we also got to deal with the fact that Rangers did not win. Are coming home 1-0 down on aggregate in their Europa League game. I guess that is a long-winded way of saying, what are the chances that the Celtic puts the nail in the coffin of the Hun season by May 1st?
I actually think, I don't obviously want to get ahead of myself here, but I think there's a good chance. To be honest, Gio has a very poor record. And I don't think he's won an Old Firm yet, having, taken over at Rangers. So his track record with the Old Firm games is not good. And the fact that it's going to be an away game for him, I think that really could see the kind of nail in the coffin as you're talking about. And again, we all know how much the home advantage, especially for, a team like Celtic, how important that is. And then the other fact is, even for the semifinals, Rangers are going to be coming off a European game 3 days beforehand, whereas, we're not in Europe, obviously, but, we're going to be a little more rested, I think. So there are definitely some factors playing against Rangers coming into the end of the season here.
Any chance that we see Kyogo before the end of the season?
Yeah, so there's talk of him appearing at Hampton for the semi-final against Rangers. He was warming up during the St. Johnstone game. Didn't necessarily need to play him with that 7-0 win, but there is definitely a lot of chatter that he's back to fitness. He's injury-free at this point in time. My theory is that Angie, having seen that we were really dominating that St. Johnstone game, didn't want to put him in and risk injury, especially with the Gianmarcus injury that he picked up during that game. That's one of our strikers now, potentially not playing. So I think Kyogo is definitely going to be a really, really interesting and very likely option for the semi-final game against Rangers.
Now, he was banging them in for Celtic at the beginning, but he has been out for quite a while. And his absence has coincided with this, improvement in form. Celtic has really turned it on, unfortunately, while he was on the bench. You don't like to see a player get Wally pipped, and you have to acknowledge his importance to the team in the beginning of the season. But could his reintroduction create more problems than it solves? As in, they've gotten so used to playing and scoring without him. He's going into a team that is not the one that he went out of.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. I think, since his injury, we've definitely seen some upfront partnerships that are really strong. Yota and Daisen Maeda, for example, and Rio Hatate and Maeda, McGregor and Rio, some really strong partnerships up front that I think are really important and really do add value to what we've seen in terms of Celtic success recently. So I think, my assumption would be that coming into the semifinals, he's going to be a substitute. He's going to be a second half substitute unless there's, an injury from someone like Maeda. But I think you do make a fantastic point there that, he has been out for a while. This will be really, if he plays his first competitive game in months and months and months, and the team that's going to be played on Sunday is a team that's been playing together for a long time and has been very successful. So I think you're absolutely right in that there are some worries that, maybe he's not going to be up to full potential for such an important game. And that's why my theory is that he is going to be a second half substitute for sure.
Now in the study, so we've got a Old Firm derby in one half, but let's not forget in the other half of this, we've got a good old fashioned Edinburgh derby, right? So you have the potential for baby Celtic to be playing the mothership or also the baby Huns, depending on how this goes. Hearts sitting pretty solidly in third. Hibs coming off of that heartbreaking result that saw them fall into the bottom half. Can you handicap the first semifinal for us?
Yeah, I think I think in terms of the Hearts, the Edinburgh Derby, I think it's really going to be a Hearts win. I really don't see them taking their foot off the gas at this point, having been so successful in their last 5 games. Hibs has really been struggling recently. They had a solid start to the season, but they're just not quite there in their style of gameplay, and they're not pulling it together well. If I had to make a prediction for the final, I think it would come down to a Celtic and Baby Hearts or Baby Rangers final here. And I think that would be a very competitive game. And I think a lot of people would like to see that. Yeah, not only, two teams with different views, but, a Glasgow Edinburgh derby. I think that would be a really fun game. And that's my prediction for how it'll go.
So let's talk about how it looks in the league. We've talked about the fact that, Hibs potentially could end up, so could Livingston in what would be 7th and 8th place, could end up with more points at the end of this than Ross County and Motherwell in 5th and 6th. But let's focus on the bottom part of the bottom part where you have St. Mirren and Dundee residing. Do you see any change there right now? I'm bringing it up, but do you see any change there? I believe it's yeah, it is as I thought. Dundee on 25 points in not St. Mirren, St. Johnston. You have this in between 7 and 10. You have St. Mirren on 36, Aberdeen on 36, Livingston on 38, and Hibs on 38. Then Johnston 6 points back, and Dundee even further. The nail's all but in the coffin for Dundee. I mean, if the best that they can hope for, I guess, is a relegation playoff spot at this point.
Yeah, no, I think the 3 teams at the bottom, I mean, we saw how poor of a week St. Johnstone had with the 7-0 loss to Celtic, and then St. Mirren with a 4-0 loss to a pretty worn out Rangers team. I don't really see them moving above Aberdeen, given with Aberdeen's kind of player and backroom issues. Livingston, I think they're going to be fine at the top of that half, or top of that split table. Same with Hibs. I think Dundee, St. Johnstone, St. Mirren have kind of, unfortunately, they're at a point now where there's really no coming back. Aberdeen, it's same number of points as St. Mirren, but St. Mirren just have been playing so poorly this season. And I think they're going to be the ones that stay bottom 3 of the table.
Going down a league, Kilmarnock, with 3 games left to play in the championship, Kilmarnock are enjoying a 4-point lead over Arbroath. They look set to make the bounce back to the Scottish Premiership, which would leave Arbroath playing in Cali Thistle, playing for the right to play the 9th place team in the Premiership. Big question: can the part-timers pull this off? I mean, they look pretty. They're all but nailed on at this point to be in that playoff. Can they do it?
It was so sad, after we had that conversation, I got really excited for a team like Arbroath to be so successful and, hoping to make it up. Kilmarnock has really turned on at the end of the season here. They're their last 5 games, I think they've 4 wins and a loss.
4 wins and a draw.
4 wins and a draw. Okay, 4 wins and a draw. And then Arbroath, I think they have a loss in there and a draw and two wins.
2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss.
Okay. So yeah, it looks like, unfortunately Arbroath is kind of, they're fizzling out a little bit, but I'm still holding on hope to that story, because I think it's a fantastic story. And reading some of the profiles on the players, and as we talked about, the manager has a history of getting teams promoted, and especially the underdog teams promoted. I think at this point in time, getting to the end, I think the next couple of games will tell, but Kilmarnock, I could definitely see them being the ones that come back up, and Arbroath being in that playoff spot for position for sure.
We remember Killy from the various times that they've been a Premiership caliber team before. Definitely remember them. Is this a year where they can get back up and stay, or are they going to become a yo-yo club if and when they make it back?
Yeah, I mean, so Partick and Killy and Inverness, Cali Thistle, they've always been, and apologize ahead of time to any of the fans on here that follow those teams. I kind of call them revolving door teams. They'll spend a bit of time up in the top league, and then they'll come back down and go back. And as you say, it's kind of a yo-yo experience with teams like that. Similarly with the Dundee teams. I after seeing how well Killy's done at the end of the season here, I'd be interested to see how they do next year. I think they could be a team that sits middle of the table, maybe top of the lower split. Just having seen how they played in their last few games. Arbroath,
one season in the Premier League, if they made one season in the Scottish Premiership, even just in the Scottish Premiership, and we know that the money in Scotland is not what it is in other leagues, but you got to feel that one season in the Premiership for a team like Arbroath would basically put them in the green for a generation to come.
Absolutely.
This is a matter of them being able to be up, function, maintain the grounds. They'll be in the green for a while. And it'll be a great story, and one that would be fun to follow. So I could see a lot of people adopting them and them getting a bit of a windfall from that. I'm just thinking like
Absolutely.
myself. I doubt I could resist getting an Arbroath shirt if they were in the Premiership.
I would for sure add that to my collection. A team, with plumbers, gaffers, playing, Rangers on a Saturday afternoon. That's a jersey that I would absolutely rock with pride, an Arbroath jersey if they made it up. I mean, even after the season they've had now, I'd be more than willing to buy a jersey of theirs. I just have to give it up to them. Part-timers playing the likes of Partick Thistle, Wraith Rovers, Inverness, Killy, and doing as well as they have. So I have to give props out to them.
Yeah, part-timers being able to do that, to practice and to travel around the country. It's not like they're playing in a regional league. And I know that Scotland isn't the size of like the United States, but for part-timers to be able to travel around the country and play these midweek games, these Saturday games, to go around and do that at that level and to be as consistently good as they have, I think it's one of the more fascinating stories that I've come across. And so I'm loving it. Last question. We know that only the top team in the Scottish Premier League, but a big change has been that the top team in the Premiership is guaranteed looks to be guaranteed entry into the group stages of the Champions League. So no more of these up to 6-round playoffs that start in June before the season is over, because I believe there was a possibility. I believe last year that they were competing in 2 different years of the same tournament at one point in time.
Yes.
So how much of a advantage is it for the team that finishes first? Right now it's Celtic. How much of an advantage is that direct entry and the guarantee of that that windfall from the Champions League group stages. How much of an advantage is that moving forward for the team that gets it?
I mean, I think it's clear. It's a massive advantage. I mean, you really pointed out these kind of obtuse smaller games that, we've had to play in previous years that, they're essentially just energy burners. Granted, some of them have been games that we've tripped up on, but I think entry into the group stages for, really any team from Scotland. I want it to be Celtic, obviously, but any team from Scotland, and to do well and to lift that coefficient, I think is a massive thing for, the team that is playing in the group stages. But then for Scotland as a whole, for Scottish football teams as a whole, part of that money from games won in the groups or in the Champions League has to be divided amongst other clubs. I don't know if it's just Scotland specific or all the European countries, but part of that money has to be distributed amongst other clubs, and it's not a small sum. It's a decent sized sum, especially for some of these other smaller clubs. So it helps to make Scottish football more competitive. So overall, it's great for the team that's playing group stages, but again, one of the things people don't realize, it's also good for the rest of the league. Some of these teams get a check that they never saw coming, able to invest in better players and make it more competitive. So, I think it's a massive deal if we can skip over all the kind of, I don't want to say pointless games, but the obscure games, as you put it.
All right, man. Well, we want to thank you, and we'll get you back to recap the Scottish Cup and to bring on the split. All right. So thanks a lot, Cam, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great one.
Okay. So for those of you listening, there's multiple things going on. Number one, Matt has joined us, and for some strange reason, Matt has decided that his background is going to be a picture of Los. As
I thought he was on. I thought he was still on.
Nah, he left after. So it's a picture of Los and Giorgio Canalia from Tampa Bay back in the day.
Good buddies.
Yes, Los, good buddies. Los with his looking resplendent in his fro at the time. Well, buddy, I was saying at the top to Stead, the opposite of love is not necessarily hate, it's apathy. And I struggled to remember. Well, no, I don't struggle to remember. The last time I felt this apathetic about the team this late in the season with 6 games to go was the end of the David Moyes era. And just watching them play out the string with what seemed like a manager who was on his way out and a team that didn't care. The difference was that at the end of that, for the last 3 games, we got Ryan Giggs as manager, which brought a little bit of excitement. The team picked up some points, and then I got to see the great moment that we all wanted to see, Ryan Giggs subbing himself on.
No, I think you're spot on. Honestly, I kind of want to do something similar to even kind of what even like Jose did when we were aiming to win Europa League, was just at the last few games of the season, just play kids, man. Like I know we still have a shot at top 4, and like you can argue that, but I just don't think we don't even deserve it. Like if we snuck in and somehow got it, like sort of how, I wouldn't say like they snuck in, but it's sort of like when Leicester won the league. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Stead, didn't Arsenal finish second that year because Spurs collapsed, right? And like unless like Spurs do something similar to like that, I don't think we're going to get fourth.
Arsenal beat Leicester twice that year. That was 2 of the 3 losses for both Arsenal. So
so like I don't know, like I just don't think that we're I don't think we're going to get it. I don't think we deserve it. I think it's also kind of ridiculous that UEFA is thinking about ruling on, letting those that have like past credentials or a history of the game to get in the Champions League. It's just,
that's a completely different story, and that's not going to benefit you next year. That doesn't come in until 2023. But that was that was one of the things that's been around for.
We could be in a similar position in a year and have the same conversation going. Wow,
that's
man, you're gonna get in because we've been there for a while.
We've been there. We were there once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been something though that's been an idea that's been floating around for the last couple of negotiations. We saw and I think that was the bone that they threw to the Super League clubs for coming back. Was kind of like, all right, yes, we punished you. That was our stick, but here's your carrot. To prevent this from happening again, we're going to assure this sort of legacy spot available to the team with the highest coefficient that doesn't make it automatically, right? But let's be honest, that doesn't mean that it's going to be any one of the big teams that we think it's going to be, because remember, your UEFA coefficient is based on
this year.
That's what it could be. I mean, it could be West Ham next year because of their run in the Europa League. It could be anybody.
Yeah.
United hasn't played that well in Europe. Arsenal weren't there.
Yeah.
This year, you're going to have teams like that that could drag them down, so that when we get there and we're thinking, oh well, United could qualify from 5th in the league or wherever, that may not be the case. Like, all it takes is one team to not make it that you think is going to from a smaller league, and you're sorry out of luck.
Yeah.
I think the biggest news though I said earlier, I'm going to start a new rumor. United is going to not sign Ten Hag. The latest rumor is that they're going to sign Steve Sampson because the Glazers have created a developmental deal with Apple and ABC, Disney, for a reality show and a movie based on Steve Sampson's tenure taking over Manchester United.
No, God, please. I just want it booked. I do also think that a lot of it is like the story. I mean, to me, just seeing how like the story kind of broke. I think it was Ogden that was basically said, he's going to be the coach, and then there was a lot of backtracking, or a lot of people. It definitely seemed like the floodgates kind of opened, and then there was this sort of like media control of like, no, like we're still working out things. I think this is just a natural case of we want to release the story when we want to release it. I do think it's all agreed. And I think, it doesn't matter. It could be him or Poch. I just think that we've got such a long road ahead of us. And yeah, I'm just like, might not be the best fun guy to bring on like the next, season or so. Cause I'm just going to be pessimistic until they show me, man. Like, I completely changed after this season. It kind of broke me. Not because of like, I feel heartbroken. It's just like I did have a lot of hope and enthusiasm coming into the season, and after like the 8th year of doing that, it's just like it kind of made me realize, maybe it's my dad wisdom now, like making me realize, you got to kind of read the tea leaves a little bit better. I'm just like not going to be optimistic for the next couple of seasons. It doesn't matter if there's any good signs. It's kind of like a wait and show me kind of deal, because
you almost don't feel like after this season, there's going to be massive changes. We're well aware of that. Paul Pogba is gone. He's going to take a pay cut. Although Manchester United have offered him more money, he's going to leave. You feel like some players, I would love to keep Marcus Rashford, but if he wants to move on and feels like his career could be best served by going someplace else, they're going to want money, but he can go. We'll be able to. Rob just asked, is Ronaldo staying? I doubt it. I think the biggest insult that I found recently was, so we're going to have to change, and we've seen teams like that. We've seen teams do that. And because of this financial situations, because of the lack of European football, because of the fact that they're not in the Champions League, because of this, they've had to rebuild on a certain level, right? Think about it this way. The foundations for the teams that have become Liverpool are based back when, they got Luis Suarez and things like that. And that was what enabled them to come up through the ranks and build the team that they've got now. Maybe bringing in Ten Hag or Pochettino and forcing them to build a team where they can't just go in and sign somebody. I would love to have Erling Haaland on the team. I think he would be great for them. And it's heartbreaking to think that he might go to Manchester City, but he says, I can't consider Manchester United because I don't think that their ambition matches what I want to do right now. And it's hard to argue with his analysis of the situation because they just seem to be wandering around. And if I'm him and I'm looking at the team, one of the great burns was from Alphonso Davies this week, but he's right again. How can you be Cristiano Ronaldo? How can you be Bruno Fernandes? How can you be a world-class player and play on a team where Harry Maguire, who is the captain? I think he's one that, the next manager has to come in and change captains and maybe find a way to show him the door, because it's not only is he not a serviceable defender, he's a liability.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think you're right. I think it's also I think we actually kind of need those kind of reality checks, because it's been one of those things where in the past it really didn't seem to matter. Like, oh well, we don't need Champions League, and it was kind of like like Woodward would do this a lot to like kind of allay fears of like, no, like we really think that it doesn't matter. We'll still be able to bring in people, kind of like we did Pogba when he came in. Same with Zlatan. I actually kind of weirdly want that to then be like, no, like I'm not going to go to you guys. Like you got to show me. I know Liverpool suffered from that for a bit. You guys got to show me you're building a project here. Like you're not just, I'm not here to just win money or get money and sit on my butt and collect the checks. And nor do I want to attract those types of players. I want more Bruno Fernandez's, and I want more, players that, play with their heart, and everything on the field. And then also too, I mean, I was going to bring this up. It's just, I haven't been on since even also the Leicester game either. And it's like, you watch these games and it's like, it's Fred and Bruno that are the only players that are as if they're playing, on a team. Like everyone else is just clearly moving for individual motivations and trying to break their own slumps. And it's very frustrating to watch because it's just not a unit. Especially you see it too a lot of times with like passing decisions, or especially on the break. It's like, why would you make that pass there, or why would you cut back when there's no one there, or trying to force something that's not there. It's just very individually kind of motivated, and just watching it week in and week out, and it's actually getting worse and worse. It's something that's very frustrating to watch, and I really do kind of hope a lot of those players that we really are going after, if we can sign them, then they better be the type of person, that we have a good background check on, that they are going to be, big team players too. I really hope, if there are top level players, that are questioning us, they actually kind of turn us down, and they publicly kind of state, I think you guys are shit. Sorry for my language, but like, I think you guys aren't headed in the right direction, because I think the board, and I think, I don't know how this would affect the Glazers, but like, I think those people that are kind of removed from on the pitch stuff, like they kind of need to see that stuff. And that kind of needs to be out there in the sense of, whoa, like people are actually just not even going to consider United until they kind of start showing it. But we'll see what happens. We always seem to kind of buy our way into getting big players, even if they're not the right fit. So I don't know, man. We got a lot of deadwood.
We got a lot of deadwood to get rid of, and just poor strategy. I think that one of the issues is, like, you're going to have to see now the Glazers make a decision as to what type of club they want this to be. Do they, it's the rust is starting to show on the gilding, right? The rust is starting to show. The gold leaf has worn off, and we're seeing that ugly steel underbelly that's rusting over. They've got to put money into the stadium. They've got to put money into the team and build a team. if they don't do that, then they are going to suffer economically, and there's not going to be money for them to use. The value of the franchise is going to decrease. The dividend that they like to take is not going to be there for them because they're not going to make any money, and eventually they're going to need to make a decision to say, all right, this global brand that we think that we built is not a global brand anymore. They are losing fans to the likes of City and PSG and things like that because they're not competitive. And though you're going to have to make the moves necessary to be competitive, and if players like Ronaldo and Messi and the greats, Mbappe, that generation of players, the Mbappes, the Hollands, the younger players, the guys who are going to be the next generation of superstars are saying, no, we're not going to play for you. We're not interested. Because you guys don't win. You don't, you can promise them all the money in the world. They want to get their hands on that big-eared trophy, and that's what matters to them.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you got to pay the piper, right? Like, you can only, bail yourself out of on past success for so long. After a while, like, it just becomes a charade, and people kind of recognize, like, oh, well, you guys are just really trying to bank, commercial success, like, off of past, on-field success. And, people had already raised those concerns for, almost 5 years now. And for whatever reason, Woodward was I got to give him credit. He was a master at still building our brand despite our lack of success on the field. And, one, he's not there anymore. Yeah. Now, one, he's not there anymore. And two, I also just think people are like, okay, I'm done with United. Like, I can't take them seriously. Like, so
that's why they're putting all those clauses in there that they didn't.
Yep.
Before. All right. Well, enough discussion about things like that. Matt, if you want to hang around for a second, I'm going to bring on Rob and Bayern Rob and talk a little bit about MLS, because we have not given them their fair due. And this season has been interesting. I finally sat down and watched a game. I watched a game, one that I didn't actually have any rooting interest in between Atlanta United and Charlotte.
Also known as Clit, by the way. CLT is their Clit. There you go. So pardon the children listening to the podcast, but yes.
First and foremost, I really have to quarrel with ABC about their game choices. If you're complaining about viewership being down, and the fact that they're not getting enough viewers, and that the rights aren't worth as much, you got to question the game choices that you're making, because I don't understand what you expected putting a game like Atlanta United versus Charlotte on your Sunday, I guess your prime spot on Sunday on ABC, not even on ESPN, right? It would have made more sense to televise directly, move El Tráfico to a time when you could televise that.
Yeah.
Or, I'm still surprised that the Philadelphia Union, who are the top team in the league right now after 5 games, are not a national broadcast at all.
Their jersey?
Their jerseys aren't the greatest, but they're not as bad as some of them. Let's be honest. I mean, I wish they would go back to the original one with the gold stripe down the middle.
Much better.
But they decided against that, and that's their business. It's not mine. I will say, though, that in watching the game versus that Atlanta United game, I was able to appreciate and notice a drastic improvement, gentlemen, in the quality of play, even from an expansion team. That Olympico that Charlotte hit to win the game, that was kind of spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good. They're always fun to watch, right? When you see an Olympico, it's like it's rare. It's like a unicorn, right? And then it goes in. But here's a take for you, and let me know what you guys think about it. An Olympico is 9 or 8/10 of the time a goalkeeper error. 100%. Is that true or not?
100%. Yeah, and I wish we had G on, because like it's like, I don't want to be a jerk, but like Olympicos are like, you practice that stuff like on the practice field with like where there's no goalie in the net. Like any goalie, like there's no way. There's just no way it should ever go in.
I believe it's Martin Tyler and Taylor Twellman on the national calls. They basically said like, hey, a lot of it is skill, but there's also a massive part of goalkeeper error. And they did point out the fact that Brad Guzan was being crowded by the Charlotte defenders and was out of position. He kind of got caught in no man's land on that bend and caught in between two minds as to whether to go up, high point the ball and get it, or what it was going to do. And he lost the flight of the ball, and that went in. Not to take away from the technique of that swinger, because that was a radical bend and a radically late bend.
Yep. Yeah, no, the bend itself is a talent, right? And it's just like, Charlotte did everything right, and they crowded the box, and they pretty much made life hell for Brad Guzan, because he had to commit. If he committed one way, like by the time he realizes his error, there's probably going to be a whole bunch of bodies in his way, and he can't go back. So and then so you have to have all that happening along with the beautiful bend from the corner. So it's a good goal. I love seeing him, but Brad Guzan is just he is past his time, as we clearly see over and over again.
Well, Matt, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it's also like, if you're in a situation where you need a goal to win and you're like aiming to put it on net from a corner, like if you're one of those players in the box, you're livid, especially if it doesn't go in, obviously. Like, one, like you said, it's like a unicorn, right, Rob? So like, if that guy, like, if the corner taker is like actually going for shots on net, you're livid. You're like, what are you doing? You're wasting a chance for it, because 9 times out of 10, like you said, like, it's goalie error. So it's like, if 9 times out of 10, if you're actually trying to shoot on net, like, and you're thinking about it and like how it would go in, it really should just be an easy catch for the goalie. And if you're out there doing that, like, all of your fellow players or teammates are going to hate you. They're going to be pissed at you,
especially the center back.
Exactly.
The center backs ran up all the way up there to get their one chance to score a goal.
Exactly.
And then it goes. The keeper grabs it, or the keeper punches it out, or whatever, and they have to run all the way back.
Yeah, but in this case, gentlemen, let's be honest. Alcivar hits that in the 11th minute. It's not like this was. It was the game winner.
Yeah.
But I don't think at any point in time it was like, oh, we believe that this is going to be the game. It's the same thing with the Philadelphia Union win, where they had the goalkeeper error against Columbus, where they got basically palmed the ball right into the net off of a cross in the 2nd minute. I don't think that at that point in time you're saying, oh, well, this goal that we scored in the first, 15 minutes of the game is going to turn out to be the difference. Sometimes in MLS that happens, but you don't think that. So I can forgive Alcivar for doing that at that point in the time, because in game time it was okay. Hey, it's early, it's worth a shot. And at that point in time, Charlotte had been relatively outplayed. The game really took a change afterwards, and Atlanta United was just never able to really put the type of pressure that they needed on Charlotte to get that goal and to change the game.
Yeah, but real quick, so Yeah, like, all right, so just real quick, this is like a manufactured rivalry that, like, MLS is trying to do.
Yeah.
Because, for,
The
college
South.
football.
Yeah.
The South and SEC and blah and all that
Yeah.
jazz, right?
Yeah.
But, so, don't worry. I know Atlanta lost today. I mean, this weekend. And they lost to the Clit this weekend. And they have a big crowd, and even though the stadium has PSLs. But Atlanta will right the ship because they have Cincinnati next week. So there you go. And all will be right in the world.
You know what the funny thing is? They could probably actually manufacture a better rivalry with Cincinnati and Atlanta than they could with Charlotte and Atlanta, right? And it would be a more natural rivalry, but they have to give them something, right?
Yeah, rivalries happen because they happen organically. Like the Red Bulls and Atlanta United are rivals. And it's not a geographical thing. It all started because of how well they played against each other, like the first few years or whatever. And then obviously the New York rivalry, that's a location thing, but they really do hate each other, right? So it's like a legit thing. But this one is like a bunch of suits, who used to work at the NFL or something, who now work at MLS because, he wanted to move on or did not get promoted, said, hey, we're going to force you to be a rivalry. Do it. Yeah. So
they don't understand. And I get that. And you can tell me, okay, this is your rival. This is your rival. This is your rival. And we're going to, no, not really.
No. Yeah.
Because, like Philly's rivalry is with everybody on the I-95 corridor.
Yeah.
Because we don't like anybody. Right.
Well, Philly, the thing, because you're like the first city, right? And you try to compete with New York, right? So that's like a thing. And then also you're right in the middle, close to DC, and DC is like the capital, but you really should have been a capital of this country. So that's like or sort of a location rivalry, So I understand that, I get that, and the Philly's just like, hey, like they're just stuck in the middle between New York and DC. So I think, Port Philly.
But it's also like for one of those things, though. But at times, because when they do rivalry weekends in the quote, I'm going to put them in air quotes, rivalry weekends in MLS, a lot of times you'll end up with these weird ones. Like, okay, Kansas City doesn't have a natural geographic rival out there.
Yeah. Closest I think is Chicago, maybe
Denver,
maybe Chicago. But I think Chicago's in the east, KC's in the west, so it would have to be Denver.
Yeah. Well, Denver has their rivalry. Texas. Well, Denver has their rivalry. Well, sorry, Colorado has their rivalry with Real Salt Lake. So that's their thing.
And I actually
the Mormon rivalry.
To be honest, I think Denver is probably closer geographically to Salt Lake than it is to. Yeah. So you got this thing where, what are you going to do? So KC's rival is going to be Minnesota. Why? Because you said so. But the point is, I'm leave the marketing to the people who do it up there, and they've managed to, on the one hand, mess up, but on the other hand, not mess up a perfectly good thing. I know, like I've been talking to you guys offline about the issues with the TV rights deal and how the viewership is massively down. MLS tried to shoot the moon to get a television contract, and one of the things that they were doing was to try and do away with local broadcasting and make it all national now, which I think is a bad idea.
So bad.
Because they've just messed up. But still, despite all that, you can put 30,000 people with PSLs in Bank of America Stadium to watch this game. You can put 75 in Mercedes-Benz. You can get the fans keep coming to these games and choosing their teams. They're enjoying it. The play on the field is getting better and better. I'm watching and I'm thinking like, okay, it's not. Is it watching the Premier League? No. Is it watching the Bundesliga? No. But it's not watching, it's not as, it's good. It's entertaining football, which is for a long time something I was not willing and able to say as readily about MLS. Like, I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, this is actually like, it's good, it's loud, it's got a good atmosphere. I wish they weren't playing on AstroTurf, but we can't fix everything. The stadiums seem to be filling up. You have energy, the fans. We're getting away from some of the jingoistic, we're going to borrow European history and transpose it. We need to get some new songs. But at least, like,
y'all need to be, the MLS in general needs to shy away from what the EPL does as far as like the chants. It needs to go more Latin. I'm sorry, they need a little flavor. All right, whatever the Bob Bravas do, just do that.
That's right.
Well, if you have, yeah, but there are some places that don't have a Barra Brava like fan base to
gotta roll those.
That.
You gotta roll those R's, buddy. Come on.
Yeah, we don't have one of the, like, there's not that in Philly. We don't. Just don't.
Talk about MLS, right? Because there actually was some good games. We and you guys did talk about the El Tráfico, which, like, and I totally agree, should have been on Sunday. Mm-hmm. El Tráfico belongs on Sunday, prime time, every time it's on. Because the game is never not good. Like with the when Zlatan started it, and it's always competitive. Always, no matter where it is. I mean, it could be in where the Galaxy play. It could be at the Bank, California. It could do stadium. It could be anywhere. It's just beautiful. It's just wildness. The crowd is really into it. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful product on TV to watch. It is. El Tráfico. Is it a silly name? Yes, but it's our silly name.
It's so like, it's just like, let's make this like kind of American.
I love the name. I think
I love it. I love it.
For anything in LA, El Tráfico is a classic.
El Tráfico is so good.
Yeah, they were saying when they came up with a name, when the rivalry came back, because they had something when there was Chivas out there, but once they went bankrupt, and they decided to bring back the team, they kind of wanted to have something, give it a name, make it a rivalry. And I remember when they decided on, it started off as a fan suggestion, a nod to the traffic around LA. I think El Tráfico is a great name for it, because that's what it is. It's goofy, it's stupid, it's kind of funny, and it's uniquely American for something like that. And I absolutely am all there for it.
And the games have been good. I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, for all we said about the goofiness of the name, the quality of play from each of the games has totally made you forget about the goofiness of it all. It's been it actually enhanced the brand. It's really
that's why El Tráfico, despite the goofiness of the name, is sticking, is because the games are good. They're competitive. It's a good rivalry, right? Galaxy haven't had the greatest run the last couple of years, and they didn't get off the biggest start, and they don't, they have Chicharito, but they're not the team that they were a decade ago when it was a bunch of big names and they were the Galacticos of MLS. And they're going up against an LAFC team who a lot of people are saying is again among the favorites to win MLS Cup. They came in unbeaten and Galaxy beat them.
And they're 1-2, by the way, in the standing. The LAFC is number 1, the Galaxy number 2 in the West. And so I think it's going to be like that for a while. I think the rest of the season, they're going to be right neck and neck with each other, because I think the Galaxy are back, especially Chicharito stays healthy. I think he can do a lot of things with them. I think he's going to be knocking on the door to Tata, be like, bring me back to Mexico so I can score better than Raul Jimenez. And then and then at the end of the season, he's going to score a bunch of goals, and he's going to be like, I belong to play at the Qatar. Bring me aboard. And then Vela's going to be there with them. I mean, I think Vela has a better overall squad in LAFC. Like, they have they're more well-rounded overall, right?
Well, the big question is, will Carlos Vela still be there after, in August, after the transfer window closes?
That's a good question. I think he stays. I think, he has some unfinished business, because LAFC has been so close, not only to winning MLS Cup, but also to winning Champions League. And while they're not Champions League this year, I think, you know, there's some unfinished business. I think they have an excellent shot to make a good run, especially to keep some of their players healthy. But like I said, because they're more well-rounded overall, I think they're able to withstand any injury setback. I mean, Vela's very important, so if he's gone for a while, you know, let's change the subject here. But if he stay, I think he's maybe leaves in a January transfer window. But you know, like, is there a market for Carlos Vela out there? I really don't know. Is there?
Yeah,
I mean,
there's always a need for a striker everywhere.
Striker, attacker, or whatever position that he plays now. Yes, I mean, I think there's still some bad blood with him in Mexico that needs to be sorted out, because I could see him going back to Liga MX, but I think he needs to sort some stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really just comes down to what he wants. Like, if he really wants to like keep being a name and considered, you know, for the Mexican team and stuff like that, then yeah, like I think it's him leaving. But if he's like, you know, I'm happy with my career and, you know, I'm getting bank here, I'm fine with that, then yeah, I think you're right, Rob. Like, I think they'll just stay. And then you can slant it too, like, oh, I have some unfinished business here and I want to finish it off. But I also do just want to touch really quick too on like the ratings. It's like, I know it won't be this season, but like, as long as they can continue to start like playing well, I will say this, I was pleasantly surprised. There's even just another level of like kind of going to it in person. Like, you still kind of, you know, see, it seems you feel like you're actually watching lower level when you're watching it on TV, because you see a little bit more spread out. But when you're there, like, you know, in the fan sections and you're kind of at crowd level and you see the decision making going on, it's just light years better what it used to be. And as long as they just continue to keep playing well, we're going to get that natural bump from the World Cup. Like, it happens every single time. Like, we get, you know, the World Cup happens, we get like a whole bunch of people who are like, I'm hooked on this soccer thing. And then they like try to start finding their like local teams, like in, you know, the MLS, and they start trying to get passionate about it. Plus, like, I'm sure parents and who have kids that start getting into it. So that like next year, like, as long as they keep progressing the way they are, like, they're going to hook fans even more. And I think you'll see a major ratings bump, you know, 2023, and the 2023 season.
They are counting on this because the collective bargaining agreement runs through. They cracked it open before last year and risked a strike, because after COVID, where they signed one, then they tore it up after COVID, and then they tore it up again after the season, because they wanted to extend it so that it covered the time for both the 2022 and 2026 World Cup, because they're expecting that ratings boost. And they don't want to give they want to make sure that the players have a fixed amount of money that's controllable, so that they can't come back after 2022 and 2023, crack that open again and say, oh, look, the ratings are through the roof, we want our cut.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is that in their zeal to know that they're going to get a ratings bump, they've kind of overshot their mark, and they're running the risk of not getting said bump in attention, because the only way you get a bump in attention is if you're where people can find you.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to put your marquee games and you need to put your marquee teams out there to be seen. And I understand monetarily, Atlanta is one of the biggest teams. They do big numbers. They have the MLS record. I mean, according to Transfer Market, they have the most expensively assembled, most valuable side ever in MLS history. It's worth 80 million. And you know, it's a team that goes hard to win, but I still think that they could have chosen a better matchup as a marquee one. It was more, I don't know about that one, but
yeah.
So Matt, we want to thank you for coming on and hanging out with us, talking a little bit of Manchester United and then talking a little bit of MLS with us. We'll get you back on next time around. When the three of us talk, we're going to start power ranking the teams. and see who are the top 5 teams. I can tell you right now, I have the Union, LAFC, the Galaxy would probably be my top 3 right now. Rob, I don't know if Matt, I don't know if you agree or not.
I pretty much agree. You know, it's the Union. I mean, look, the Union are just they're just unstoppable. Like they're gonna reload all over again. They're gonna sell players. You know, like the other Aronson's going probably next year, and then Union's gonna be like, no, you know what? Don't matter. We can lose anybody. We'll just reload from the academy and keep winning games all over again.
Yeah, I hope, but they got to win a trophy. All right, Matt, good to see you, and we'll get you back on.
See you guys.
We do have to talk, Rob, about before we get to Larry, real briefly. Gio Reyna is done for the year.
Oh my God! It's hashtag bad vibes because just seeing him cry, like
2 minutes.
It just crying. I can't stand watching him cry. It hurts my heart. It hurts my red, white, and blue heart to just see him hurt. And I just want to give him my hamstring. Like, here, Gio, I have one. I'm not using it. It's for you. And because you need it more than I do, because you need to do something for us in the World Cup. There was a point in time, and look, there's going to be a bright side to this. There was a point in time where we thought Christian Pulisic went the same way, and he was hurt a lot, and it seems like he's sort of figured that out. So maybe it's just Gio Reyna still growing, and then he's being too hard on his body still, and he'd have to learn how to play in the sport and know when to give effort. I don't know. I mean, so I hope that is the case, but I'm still worried about Gio. It hurts my heart, man. So even though he's at Dortmund, but like I need Gio smiling. I need Gio with that fresh haircut that he had at World Cup qualifying. I need Gio on the wing. I need Gio in the mid and everything. Please, Gio, come back. Please come back.
He just needed. I mean, it's been a lost season, right? It's been a lost season. It's very unfortunate, but take the, what is it, 4 months now that you have in between now and the beginning of next season. Rest, get healthy, get back to training, get healthy. That's the key, because more than anything else, you could tell that this was an injury that lingered and never quite healed properly. And anybody who's done a hamstring knows that they can be wonky for a while.
Yeah. The problem with hamstrings is the pain goes away relatively quickly. And it's easy for a guy who's 20 to think he's fine because it doesn't hurt anymore. With hamstrings and quads in general, those long muscles, the pain may go away, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're no longer injured. And I would be more concerned if Gio Reyna was 24 or 25, but your brain doesn't finish developing until you're 25. I think he's probably still growing in some way, shape, or form, and just needs to just shut it down. In fact, I think if anything, Dortmund made the mistake of allowing him to play again this season. They should have shut him down at the last injury. Just said, you're done. You're done.
Yeah, they just need to make sure, because I'm more concerned about this developing into a reoccurring problem or causing another problem that ends up stunting his development because of injury more so than anything else. Well, I want to go ahead and bring in 2 more guys, Larry, the City fan, and Chelsea Mike, so that we can talk about this game at the top of the Premier League. I know, Rob, it's not your particular, but
I watched it, and I watched it in the 4K, by the way.
Yes.
So thank you, DirecTV, for putting on the premier EPL match. Now, look, guys, I know y'all love the game, and I was watching Frankfurt as well, but quality game, gents, and take it away, because I love to hear all about it. And I'm a neutral here, because I love palettes and everything from the EPL, but you gotta remember, this rivalry between Pep and Klopp was not made in England. It was made in the Bundesliga. Don't forget that. Thank you very much.
It was made in the Bundesliga, right? And they have a lot of respect for each other. We talked about this at the top of the show, and I believe you might have heard us when we said this, though, was the fact that this is a sporting rivalry. This is a rivalry that's made on the field. It's not a geographic rivalry. It's not a social. It's not a cultural one. This is a rivalry between the two best coaches and the two best teams right now in the Premier League, right? And they will continue to be the two best teams and two best coaches as long as those two coaches are there. Right. We know that Pep has hinted at that he's going to be leaving at the end of this contract, but then, he's also said, if you give me a 10-year deal, I'll stay for the rest of my life. So, hey, it is what it is. I'm with you. Rob, I thought it was a fantastic game. It was great to see the tactical battle, how it played out throughout the game, the counter-punch nature of it. City getting after and Pep consciously saying we're going to attack the Liverpool fullbacks, and really forcing Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robinson to make some decisions. And it was a long time since I'd seen the Liverpool defense look that flustered leading up to the early goal. Liverpool getting one back, City getting their second before Liverpool equalized it, almost off of a set play, right? And then it was Liverpool out of the half. Liverpool's turn to counterpunch. Sterling has a late one ruled off for offsides. That would have been the winner, but then the game kind of fizzled out from there. Larry, I know you were on a plane on your way back from Punta Cana through most of it. Have you had a chance to see the highlights or anything?
I definitely watched all of the highlights. I saw a couple different I saw the highlights, and then I did skim through the game as much as I possibly could just to be able to kind of give a little bit of talking points tonight. I will go back just because the way the final score is something that I want to watch. If it would have been a Liverpool win, I probably would have just kept it as a skim and the highlights, but I will go back and watch the whole thing just to be able to, from everything that I've read, it was just it was a phenomenal game. I mean, they're so well matched that if they played each other 20 times, I'd be shocked if it wasn't 10-10 at the end, and it's nice to see a team, because I'm so used to seeing City playing teams, which I'm sure Liverpool fans are similar, of it just the other team going into a defensive shell and it kind of being, it's not as fun of a game to watch. As a neutral, I wish I was a neutral for this kind of game. Instead, I'm biting my nails and I have a hard time watching it, but it,
welcome to the party.
Yeah. It's something that is, it was a phenomenal game. I think if you just want to base it on that game, based on from what I've seen, City had the slight edge. Mahrez should have, Mahrez essentially doesn't just win that game. He possibly wins the league if he finishes that at the end. I don't blame him for the chip. It was just poorly executed based on, Alisson was out far enough for him to do it, and he just didn't execute it. So
before I get to the other thing, the good news is, as much as you said they could play 10 times, guess what? You get to see them do it again next week.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you hate seeing a game like that end in a draw, but that's almost where that's how they should end, because of how evenly matched, and either team at any time can score 5 goals, and they're hard to score against. But we saw both their defenses, who were two of the best defenses in the league, both let up 2 goals. Their goalies both let up 2 goals. It was a great game.
What do you make of this rivalry that has developed in between City and Liverpool?
I saw Klopp has said it multiple times, and so has Pep, where they both have pushed each other to new limits. Where, how many times have we seen the League One with a team with low 80 points, or but then just within the last couple of years, teams aren't winning it with 90 plus. It's just the rivalry is amazing. Again, it's a nail biter for the supporters of those teams, but it it's pushing them to break records that probably would have been looked at before as unbreakable as far as team stats go.
So, Mike, you were another one. We were all talking through the game. What was your impression of the game as you were watching it?
Well, I've got to say, from a neutral perspective, I mean, what a great game to watch. It had it all. I mean, first of all, you had the first two goals, the De Bruyne and Mane. Those two plays were the kind of plays that, like,
first.
Sorry,
it was Jota that scored first.
Yeah, Jota. Yeah,
right.
Jota scored.
Yeah, it was Jota scored first, and De Bruyne. But those kind of goals, like that, those were defenses that are amazing that just got like cut to shreds. And I mean, yes. Sorry, Mike. The Mane goal, you said, it was like it was a set play. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really was, and that doesn't happen on the Manchester City defense. It was a great game to watch. You sort of wish that he didn't go for the chip at the end, like when he could have just slotted it low and, low and hard, and would have done the trick. And I don't know. It's hard when you're out there playing the game, and just what's in front of you and what you see. I mean, he made the wrong decision, and I think that's pretty clear. But you're right, though. It is a preview. We get to see it again next week, but next week there must be a winner.
Next week there must be a winner, but next week is going to be played on. This week is going to be. It's going to be different, right? This is not a game that's going to be played at the Etihad or Anfield. It's going to be played at Wembley. There are issues with getting fans down to the game due to highway maintenance and things like that. We know that the field at Wembley is not the quickest track. These are two teams that like to play at pace. It's wide. It's not particularly quick. We're going to see a different sort of game because of just the conditions that it's being played under. I would also venture to say that this probably means a lot different now that this game ended in a draw. Professor Matt brought up the point last week that he was more scared of this week because he said, if Liverpool beat City, which he at the time expected them to do, he said Pep going into a game where his back's up against the wall, knowing that it's one of his last couple of chances to win a trophy domestically, is going to come out with something. Now, these two gentlemen are going to go back. They're going to watch the tape. They are going to dissect it. We know the types of students that these guys are. We know that we're going to see different. Larry, what is the fear that Pep overthinks this, as he's been wont to do a couple of times before in big matches?
It's a fear I have every time you go into a big match. He's going to come out with some different formation, or he's going to start someone. Again, it paid off with Jesus. You know what I mean? I thought Jesus played a good game. He hasn't started since January 1, and there was a lot on the boards that I follow. Everybody was pondering that move, and really did not understand it, and it worked out for him. I fear him overthinking it all the time until he doesn't, and he goes with what works. But he's where he's at, and he's arguably the best coach in the world for a reason, so.
Mike, let me ask you, like, as a neutral, right? We're neutral fans here. I know that game happened at the Etihad, but did it at any point feel like the crowd was spurring them on? It didn't for me. I mean, I feel like we're going to see the exact same level of game. I don't think it's advantage Liverpool now that they're not at the Etihad. I mean, I feel like we're going to see.
I don't think it's necessarily advantage at Liverpool because they're not at the Etihad. I think that it's different because the playing surface and the stadium and the conditions that they're playing in are different. I think it's different because you're playing on a completely different track than either Anfield or the Etihad have. And we know that Wembley tends to turn up these sorts of stodgy games because the pitch isn't that great. It has a notoriously bad and notoriously slow pitch. And when you're dealing with two teams that like to move quickly, I think that's going to create the issue. That's the point that I was trying to make. I know that, you can make all the jokes that you want about the Etihad not being full or the ghost fans of Manchester City. I also know that the stadium is big, and the way that it's set, I think sometimes swallows the noise. It definitely sounded loud, like the City fans, from my perspective, were up for it. I definitely heard a couple of the Liverpool fans in whatever far-flung corner of the stadium that they were in when they were singing and chanting. But I don't know that we are able to capture what the full atmosphere of that ground is like on TV just because of the microphones, the camera placement, things like that, right? So,
no doubt. I mean, you could argue maybe that them being at home, Man City had a way hotter start. Maybe that brought that up, and you won't have that this weekend. But again, I don't think the game that you're going to see is really going to be appreciably different than the last one. And to me, the way Pep overthinks it is, he takes a side that worked and puts out a side that does not, because his side worked last week, and you're playing against probably the second best team in the world in Liverpool, and you got a draw as a result. I mean, Pep, don't overthink it. As a person who has personally benefited from you overthinking it, don't overthink it.
Well,
I think Pep makes it one change. I think he starts Mahrez, and that's probably the only change he makes. I think Foden comes out, Sterling goes back, and then Gabriel Jesus will start at the 9, but not really being a 9. They'll because Pep doesn't really have a 9. Everybody just takes turns, being in the middle. I think Mahrez starts, and that's going to be probably the only change. I think from what I see, and I was watching in the game, he played a very simple 4-4-3, and it was. And it worked. And you're right, Mike. It worked out well. Like, you got the draw at home, yeah, but for a lot of stretches of the game, they were in control, as they should be there at home.
And I think I agree. I would tend to agree with you. I think that Mahrez starts. I think that the idea of using the width of the pitch to attack Liverpool wide and force Arnold and Robertson to make defensive decisions, they're great going forward. We saw that with the way that they were whipping those crosses in on those goals, but I think that they can be exploited defensively. And
they were this weekend.
They were.
But I think it would be a big mistake not to start Foden. I mean, unless they do have a European game, and I mean, unless for some reason he's not fit, of course. But I think the amount of energy Phil Foden was providing out there was sort of central to their attack.
Larry, you can explain better to me how key Foden is to the way that attack that in midfield work.
I think he's huge. I don't see Foden sitting. I see Jesus and Sterling sitting with Mahrez, and him giving Grealish the possible start. Even though Jesus had a great game, and I think that's going to be one of the things that Pep says, well, maybe if we do this instead of drawing, which they can't draw in this game, they'll be able to get the win as opposed to it going to extra time and then being settled by PKs possibly. So I do see that. And then at the 60th minute, Sterling coming in, Jesus coming in, but Foden has become such a huge part that, again, with that depth, he's hard to start every single game, which sounds impossible considering, you put him on 18 other teams in the league and he's starting every game, but that's the same thing with Mahrez. I mean, I wasn't a big Mahrez fan when he started here, but it took him a year and a half to under Pep. And now I don't know why he's ever on the bench. Again, it just comes down with the depth and Pep being Pep and looking at matchups and seeing, all right, I'm going to bring you all fresh on the 60th, 65th, 70th minute. But Foden's huge. Whether he starts or not, he can be a game changer for them. The energy that Rob talked about is just phenomenal, and we're seeing that he's not just energy. He sees the field well.
What team should be more concerned about getting the win during regulation?
I mean, I would probably say City, just because it seems like they can't ever seem to get a late goal, and the PKs have been an issue with them for the last 2-3 seasons. I just feel that Liverpool have a stronger duration team than City do.
So I will agree with Larry. I think City, but for different reasons. So I think when City go down and is late, I think I trust them less to find a way to come back as opposed to Liverpool. I feel like Liverpool, if they give up a goal and is tied, they find it in their strength, they're in their inner club to just come in and really give the extra effort. I think they almost like they love playing that way, as opposed to like England City, when you shock them a little bit, you expect them to come back. It's almost like they're shocked first, and then it takes them a little bit to get going. So I think if this game, if like Liverpool like strike late and and they tie the game up or something before extra time starts, then I think this is Liverpool's game. I just think they're better prepared to handle adversity, per se. I think City definitely had the better depth. I mean, like Larry was saying, you could bench Foden, but bring Foden in the 70th minute, and he's going to be hell to deal with for the rest of the next 20 minutes, and then also potentially extra time. But I almost like trust Liverpool more when their back is against the wall. I mean, it's going to be fun regardless, right? We all know it. I think the Liverpool fans are going to fill this place up, at least half of it, and it's going to be very, very loud. And just to comment one more thing about the game, the games I find the best are when you can actually look at on the TV and you actually see the momentum shift. Like you see, like all of a sudden, like Man City imposing their will on Liverpool. All of a sudden, Liverpool get a good break, and then it doesn't come to anything. But all of a sudden, you actually see them pin City back a little bit at a time, here and there, holding a ball, and then the momentum shifts all over again. It was just beautiful to watch as a complete neutral, and just to watch the tactics try to out-tactic each other was like it was beautiful. It was beautiful football at its finest, and it could have been totally different colors. I know that it's City and Liverpool, and they're sort of geographical, but they're not really like a super rivalry or whatever. But honestly, these are Pep's teams and Klopp's teams, more importantly, and that's what you saw.
Real quick on what Rob just said there was about later in the game. City plays the same game for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the only difference is sometimes they finish, sometimes most of the time they don't. And that's typical with all teams. Most of the time you're not finishing, or else you'd be scoring 6-7 goals a game. Where Liverpool seems to, and I don't watch every single one of their games, but they seem to make those small changes when they're down or when they're tied and late that it might be minute change, but they're able to change something that's able to get them that tying goal, that goal to bring them ahead. That City will do the same thing whether they're up or down, and they just have to finish is really what it comes down to.
Well, that's been the knock, I guess. One of the other knock, if you will, on Pep, beyond the overthinking, has been this stubborn belief in plan A. There is no such thing as a plan B on a Pep Guardiola team. It's plan A, and if you fail with plan A, it's because you didn't execute plan A well enough. We saw that most notably with the failed attempt to have Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He just could not integrate him into the team because they were like, oh, well, you can bring him on as a plan B. I don't need a plan B. There is no such thing as a plan B. It's plan A, and if you fail, it's because you didn't execute plan A. These are the sorts of games, though, where that sort of thing can potentially get him into a little bit of trouble, because for a fact that if, for example, Liverpool need a late goal, they have a guy like Divock Origi who just always seems to turn up with those late goals when they need him, and they can throw him on and just aim balls at his head, where City don't have that sort of player on their roster at the moment, right? So I would agree with both, Larry, with both you and Rob. I think it becomes a matter of, and Luis Diaz again, I think it becomes more important for City to win it on the field, whereas if it goes to penalties, I'm going to start, or later as it goes that late, I think that Liverpool start to get the advantage. My fear is that the managers know that as well, and that's why I think we'll get a slightly different game. The good thing about this, Mike, is at the end of the day, one of us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong, and we'll have next Monday to figure it out. But gentlemen, I really want to thank you. We're getting the time to tick, tick, tick and wrap this up. It's been a great show. We want to thank Carlos Rosales for coming on, giving us his take on Spurs and a little bit of reffing things. We want to thank Celtic Cam for coming on, talking a little bit about the split and the upcoming Scottish League championships. Matt for grousing with me about Manchester United, and then joining Rob and I to talk a little bit about MLS, and of course Larry and Mike for coming on and recapping the game, the City and Liverpool game. Mike, you wanted to take a moment, and I do mean a moment, to announce the first relegation. So go for it.
Yes, we have our first relegation this week. It's official, confirmed. They can't make it up, and in fact, they fired their coach. Crew Alexandria will leave League One and join League Two next year. They are officially relegated.
All right. Well, we'll get more on the ups and downs in the English League next week. All right. So, gentlemen, it's been real. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week. So for Los and El Gato, Celtic Cam, Bayern Rob, Larry, the City guy, and Chelsea Mike, and of course, producer Stead, I'm Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, and have a great week.